I have always wanted to make art. In class when I was 12 years old, Mrs. Strout came over, slid my test back to me, and whispered in my ear, "Hey buddy, you better learn to cut grass because with that brain of yours, you'll never make any money." Now, Mrs. Strout, I have a note for you. Here's my letter to Mrs. Strout. From me and all my friends here on YouTube. We're gonna prove you wrong. Today, we're gonna make a bow that's historic. We're gonna make a bow from snow skis. We're gonna make something functional, and we're gonna make something worthy of putting in a museum. And I'm going to make $14 on AdSense from this video to prove Mrs. Strout wrong.
So let's build a laminated fiberglass bow in the style of Mountain Bow 5 by using these snow skis to get an amazing look. But first, I about cracked my head open coming into work.
Don't get the feet wet, don't get the feet wet. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh no.
That's how I used to walk into work. But this year, it's a new year, it's a new me, and I got new shoes.
I'm currently wearing the Alta high tops, and I've got a bucket of water. Bet you can't guess what I'm gonna do with this bucket of water. You see, Vessi's a really unique shoe company because they make comfortable shoes that look good. And here's the kicker, they're completely waterproof. I like these shoes because they're convenient. I can wear them anywhere I'd go on a typical day. Throw those old rain boots away. Actually, I threw mine away years ago because I prefer wet feet over wearing those things. With Vessi, they've solved that problem. And even more so, my Vessi shoes got the stamp of approval from my wife. I can literally go directly from work to dinner and she'll be like, "Hey, you look good." And I'm like, I finally made it. I have worn this shoe out at my property, in dirt, in dust. I've worn this in the snow. I've worn this through puddles. I've worn this on a hike. The reason I mention all of this is because look how clean it is. These shoes don't like scuff. So far, you can't even tell it's not new. But it's not new because I've worn it a lot. Take the first step into 2025 with confidence. Go to vessi.com. I've got the QR code here or the text link right here. And go get your waterproof shoes that will fit with all of your outfits, as well as a 15% discount off your first order at checkout. Thank you, Vessi, for sponsoring today's videos. These shoes are awesome, guys. Go check them out.
I like old things. I like how these skis look, and I could just put them as decoration on the wall. But I think if we could pull this off, it'll be really cool. I'm just concerned that it won't work because I've never done this before. So I'm justifying ruining these historically awesome skis by hopefully making something that'll last even longer. I've done a lot of jobs in my life, a lot of side hustles. Here was my best one. The time I was married and I was in college. I was pretty busy with sports and school, trying to figure out how to be married, trying to figure out how to pay rent. But I got fortunate. I was able to secure 8 lawns to mow, and they were all in the same neighborhood. And so what I did is I stacked the day I would mow these lawns all to be on the same day. Saturday. I would go to start cutting the grass at 8 a.m. and I would finish before 2 p.m. The lawns were $30 to $50 each. So I made around $300 in a half day of work. This is probably the best side hustle I've ever had because I find mowing enjoyable and relaxing, and doing it once a week I didn't burn out. I think jobs like this are underrated. First, I need to thin out these snow skis so that they will be flexible enough to put into a bow form. So by using the belt sander and a drum sander, I can get these skis thin enough that they bend very flexibly. It appears these skis were made from some sort of pine or fir. Then some of the other components include wedges that transition from the riser to the limbs, as well as tip overlay wedges. All of these are feathered so that they will smoothly and cleanly fade into the bow limb. This will help the bow bend properly. I once made bows from hockey sticks, and I've also made a bow from fiberglass snow skis, but with these wood snow skis, I want to make it different. I want to use modern materials to enhance it. I'm using clear fiberglass, which kind of looks creamy, but once the glue has cured, it becomes invisible. It's important to cut everything down to the proper size before gluing it up. If it's all the same dimensions, then it won't slide as much and it's much easier to get a good glue up. Now for the handle, I'm going to use a piece of ash for a light colored accent wood. I'm going to use a piece of walnut for a darker accent wood. When it comes to riser laminations, the location of the laminations are super important for the strength of the riser. I've done this wrong in the past, and you'll see it in a minute where it broke because the laminations were too thin in an unfortunate location. I also like to glue these up in a pattern that will allow them to be stronger. It'll allow the riser to be stronger. So I also include some black phenolic in the riser. Tape goes on the fiberglass to keep the glue off of it before gluing up the bow. And with this one specifically, there's a lot of pieces. My fear is that the lamination will not hold to the snow ski, specifically on the side of the paint. If the paint separates from the wood, then the glue joint is only as strong as the paint is to the wood. So that would be the concern. But the paint had all these holes in it, and I scratched through it with some sandpaper, and it looked like there was a good chance it would hold. So to continue my normal process, I'll do something less than ideal for all of you to see. I clamp the bow down, and I put a heat strip on it so that the glue can cure quicker. And then the riser, just a lot of glue and a lot of clamping. I put this riser in a heat box to cure. There's so many ways to glue up a bow, and I'm always testing out something new in a video and in real life. So this is not a how-to. I do have specific how-to videos. This one's not a how-to because you might see me use a method, but it might not work out well. So unless I verbally recommend using it, just be careful because I might have had a bad experience with it. It's extremely difficult for me because I could easily make a 4 or 5 hour video on bow making if I went into all the details. So I try to add what's interesting for the moment, but I sure miss a lot. Now the riser outline and shape. The silver line is where I'm gonna put a laminated piece in the middle of the riser that's curved. I like this. It looks good, and it adds structural strength for where the limb bolts go in. Sawing through phenolic or fiberglass like this will destroy your bandsaw blade. So you can use a carbide blade, or you can just use an old wood blade and trash it once this project is done. I smooth out the joints, and the material I need to fit between the joints is the exact same thickness of material that I took out from the joint. And so before actually gluing it up, I wanted to just put clamps on it to make sure it could handle this curve. And it was a thick piece of carbon fiber, so I wasn't too confident in it. And then this is what happened. See what this thin piece of fiberglass does. So instead, I chose a specific type of fiberglass that is really flexible. I scuff up the smooth side of the fiberglass for better adhesion. I have this super thin veneer of Brazilian walnut, I think. To get the proper thickness here, we'll sandwich these long grain fiberglass pieces with the walnut in between. Maybe add a little character too. I think layering thin pieces of material like this can give a handle or a riser a really cool, unique look, especially when you do laminations in multiple directions. It takes so much more time and there's a lot more work, but if it's a bow that's gonna last a lifetime, I think it's worth it if you like the look. Clamps and a heat box, and a few hours later, or maybe a full night later, the bow is ready. Not the bow, but the riser, the handle, the blank. Now that we've got the rough limbs and the riser, now it's time to build the bow. All the glue ups are done. We did 4 glue ups, and now we can just build it, put it together. I lay out the handle based on old risers that I've done that I like, and then I cut it on the bandsaw. Over the past few years, I've learned to get more particular. There are things like mowing grass where the level of precision is very low. But when it comes to building a bow, or a fiberglass bow specifically, the level of precision is increased dramatically. And a lack of attention to detail can ruin a bow in seconds. Then cut in the arrow shelf and shape the handle to how you like it. Now I'm making this left-handed because I switched to shooting left-handed recently. I've known I've been left-eye dominant for a long time, but I've never tried to shoot left-handed. So I did a test where I shot 1,000 shots left-handed, and it turns out I'm basically better left-handed than right-handed already, which is odd because I've been shooting left-handed for a few weeks where I shot right-handed for 25 years. So I nearly automatically cut this arrow shelf in on the wrong side, but I caught my mistake after I laid out the bow, but before I cut into it, thankfully. A little bit of heat helps the tape come off of the limbs. And you can see how that clear fiberglass looks great. I make the limbs extra long so that I can trim them to fit each other. Generally, I leave the top one a little bit longer. I have a template for this hardware, but I literally lost it. I can't find it, so I need to make a new one and a better one. So I just used calipers to measure the distances, and it actually didn't work out as good as I wanted it to. I don't think I filmed it, but I had to redo some of these holes because it was in the wrong spot. So I had to fill the hole with a dowel and then re-drill it on both sides because I was not as accurate with the calipers as my template normally is. I mark out the limb tapers and then sand it down. Make it nice and even on both sides. Sand all the glue off the fiberglass, sand everything down to make it nice and clean. Cut in the tip overlays. I did very simple ones here.
I've been working on this bow the past few days. Got a bunch of bad news recently. Not terrible, just not good. I need a win though. I need a win. Right now. Oh my goodness. After taking some measurements, my angle is not as steep as I would like. That means this tip is up higher above the handle. When you spread it out, see the tips here, it comes straight across. I want those closer to be to the back of the handle within an inch or so. So I'm gonna redo this riser real quick to change that angle so that I can string the bow, because with this much reflex, my draw weight is really high and I'm losing efficiency.
So that's what I did, is I resanded this angle and tried it again, and I didn't get my win. The bow split right along the paint. So I glued it back down and tried it again, and it split again. So I decided to finish the bow anyways. Put on a simple spray finish to make the colors pop. The discouragement of making something for 5 days and then it not working is not always easy to overcome, especially when I'm committed to showing it to thousands of people. But the writing was on the wall with the paint mistake. With that being said, I built this as a 60-pound bow. If I would have built it without bamboo as a 20-pound bow, I think it would have held. And truthfully, I think this bow looks awesome. I love the red color. I love how all these materials, the bamboo, the snow ski, the tip overlay wedges, the character inside the red snow ski wood, I love how it all looks together. I think it has a lot of character and looks pretty cool. The riser didn't turn out perfect, but overall it's pretty stinking good. There's only one single problem. This bow won't shoot. So we made a luxury bow, or maybe we just made an art piece. I don't know what we made, and Mrs. Strout might have been right. So if you have a lawn that needs cut, let me know.